So, Baba Dez, we are
Hi.
sitting here in the Tantra Festival, and
Yes, in Copenhagen.
in Copenhagen,
Yes,
2012.
2012.
And you just gave a lecture today about fully integrated spirituality.
Yes, I did.
What
It
is
was so
what
much
is
fun.
that?
Well, it's about when we talk about our spiritual journey and our spiritual path, that it's not just one of consciousness, but one of embodied consciousness. So because we're here on earth and we are embodied, we have these bodies. What does it mean to be in a body? What does it mean to be grounded and present on the earth? What does it mean to be a passionate sexual human being? What does it mean to be a being of power, a being of love, and full chakra, fully integrated? So a lot of spiritual traditions and paths haven't figured out how to integrate the sexual piece yet. And I feel like now, with the way consciousness is evolving, that a lot of the spiritual paths are starting to learn how to fully integrate the sexual piece as well.
So how can we use our sexuality in a much more conscious way?
Well, when our sexual energy is really the same thing as our life force energy. And our life force energy is if we understand life force energy and we understand how to cultivate it, how to hold it, how to direct it, then we can use it for everything. How to have better health, how to support more loving relationships. We can use it all kinds of ways, just like we know in quantum physics now that our thoughts and our emotions affect matter. And some of the most powerful emotional energy that we can harness is our embodied spiritual, sexual, physical energies. And to direct that consciously with love and passion can affect matter. So that's really, how do we cultivate that life force energy? And one of the things I mentioned in the talk is how a good example is how a lot of men and women, when they develop early patterns around their sexual energy, they go into getting excited and going into orgasmic and ejaculatory energy spilling out and spilling over, and they don't know how to hold this energy and just hold it and cultivate it and then direct it. So this is part of being a responsible adult, spiritual sexual adult.
So how do you think we can change from going from, let's say, following the desire, spilling out the energy, and then going to use it more consciously? What do we need to do?
Well, I feel like, it's like we're embodied human beings. We have physical bodies, so it's not that we don't want to pay attention to and listen to our physical or our body desires. We just want to bring consciousness to it, and we want to come from an integrated place of, yes, my body has desires, and what does my heart desire? And how does that feel to my emotional body? And does that support me in my consciousness? So it's like I feel like a lot of people, they'll get, like an example is we'll get involved in a relationship, and I really have this heart experience and I love this person, and because I love them and now all of a sudden it's like, well, if I love them, then I should make love to them. But the body doesn't feel any desire, that much physical desire for this person. But there's a lot of heart space. But oftentimes we'll honor the heart's desire and we'll force ourselves to be physical or intimate with someone when it's really not the truth of our bodies. So that would be an example of how heart can, if we just listen to our hearts, how it will override the truth of the body. And the same thing the other way. Somebody can have physical desires or body desires, and it would override the truth of the heart, that maybe the heart really isn't feeling safe or really present. And so what we want to do is we want to check into that wisdom with our hearts, with our bodies, with our bellies, and bring consciousness to it all, so that we're getting full yeses all the way through our beings, not just being run by our body or our heart or our emotions. So that's really what fully integrated spirituality is.
Do you see a difference between the male path and the female path into this?
Well, if you're coming from a model of separation and dichotomy, yes. However, I feel that as we heal dichotomy and we start coming into oneness consciousness, there is no difference. It's just divine human beings. And the differences start becoming less and less, and we realize that, for instance, as a man, as I integrate my divine masculine and my divine feminine, I'm really no different than woman, other than the fact that somehow I'm expressing through this physical manifestation of a man's body. But I think we come from a world where energetically and emotionally and psychically and physically, obviously, a lot of ways men and women are very different. And I feel like a lot of that is because of the programming. It's the neurological programming that I received being a little boy and then a man and then a man, the consciousness of man. And of course the kind of programming that you would receive being a woman in a woman's body. And so this affects the duality that we live in, and it's not to notice difference, but it's also not to be run by the differences. So I feel like, like for instance in this culture, women, and in general, women are more in touch with their emotions, and a lot of that is physiological because they're in touch with their wombs, because they bleed, because they're more connected with the life and death cycle oftentimes, and men have become more separated. That doesn't mean it's okay or it's right. It's just the way things are. So I feel like what we're doing is we're becoming more connected, more emotionally connected, more integrated, and that there's no reason why a man can't be as connected to the life and death cycles of death and birth as a woman. And it's about reprogramming our neurology so that we're whole human beings and not polarized to the masculine or feminine. And so I think that's a real important distinction and a real important direction that we're moving in. That as a woman, it's no mystery what men want if you've integrated your masculine aspect, and as a man, it's no mystery how women feel and what women want if I've integrated my healthy, mature, feminine aspect in myself. So there's a lot more that's similar about us than there is that's different.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel we can integrate more the masculine in the feminine and vice versa?
I feel like a lot of it has to do with a lot of neurological reprogramming. So I feel like what I like to do is I like to incorporate modern psychology with a lot of ancient shamanic practices and modern shamanic practices, and actually reparent ourselves to take the old neurology and the old model and actually on a cellular level reprogram my reactivity, and to step deeper into my ease and presence on a very visceral level, not just on a mental level. And because the mind has a way of being able to overpower the body or convince the body of something, but on a cellular level we're still coming from that old paradigm. So I feel like the neurological reprogramming is absolutely essential, and I'm really passionate about that, and I really love the process that we do in the spiritual sexual shamanic experience, and it's a week-long program that delivers people from a place of their old conditioning into a place of power, to neurologically reprogramming who we are as divine human beings, and to be vessels of power. Because neurologically, the way that most of us are now, to one degree or another, we don't know how to hold power, and in fact we sabotage our power, we throw it off, and it's just too much for us to handle. Because we just can't handle it neurologically. So to repattern this neurology so that we can actually hold power, circulate power, direct power, is the most crucial thing to creating love and happiness and being able to manifest heaven on earth.
So does it mean we need to expand, kind of?
Oh, absolutely.
On all levels?
Well, it's not only an expansion, but we're actually capable of true expansion and power when we have a nervous system that can hold it. The best example I can give is oftentimes people will have a spiritual experience or a kundalini awakening or something like this, where they can feel more energy and more power in their bodies, but they can't sustain it. And in fact, a lot of people even freak out. They'll have accidents, or they'll create drama in their lives to bring them back into ordinary consciousness, because they don't know how to hold that kind of power. And it's not that they don't know how, it's that they're neurologically unable to hold it because they're not programmed for power. As human beings, we're not programmed for power. As human beings, we're actually programmed to be powerless so that we can be controlled and manipulated by religions, by governments and empires, and by corporations. So, and it's something that's been happening for a long time. So to get this neurological reprogramming is absolutely significant and essential if you want to expand your consciousness and who you are as an energy being of power.
Can you say what do you feel is most significant for you on your journey in life? What has changed the most?
Oh boy, what has changed the most for me on my life? What has changed for me the most is the quality of my relationships, and the quality of my relationship not only with people, but my quality of the relationship with myself and with the earth and with life force energy. Understanding energy and being able to feel and direct and hold energy and hold power. That's what's really shifted the most. And what happens is there's a deeper sense of ease, a deeper sense of love, a deeper sense of purpose as I feel divine moving through me. And there's just no substitute for divine presence. And I've been feeling a lot of gratitude and very thankful for all the situations and circumstances in my life and the amazing beings that have come into my life to support me to be who I am today and who I feel I'm continuing to deepen into. So it's a beautiful gift.
Can you say what has been your practice? Like, what did you do to reach there?
Well, I feel like a lot of people on a spiritual path, just like myself, there are a lot of different disciplines and practices, of course, different forms of meditation, different forms of yoga. I spent a lot of time organic farming, and I put my hands in the earth. I paddled canoe when I lived in Hawaii. There's a lot of things that I did to just really reprogram my own neurology. And of course, hanging out with other beings of love, power, and presence was very essential. But one of the most important practices was activating and reclaiming my emotional body, which is the seat of my power as a human being. And so these are a lot of the shamanic practices that we teach in the spiritual sexual shamanic experience. So I think that's one of the things. But it's like we, as spiritual beings and as other beings of consciousness, we do a lot of different things to cultivate to cultivate the expansion and cultivate the presence. And at a certain point, what happens is we need to drop all of that and just be. It's like meditation isn't something you stop and go and do. Meditation is what I'm doing right now. We're meditating right now, and so every moment is a divine moment. Every moment is a meditative moment. Every moment we need to learn to live the yoga of life and the love of life and the meditation of life, and learn how to integrate that so that we're not stopping to do anything. We're just being always.
You mentioned in your lecture something about getting more and more conscious and just staying at ease, and in this way life around you just becomes more chaotic and wild, and is it because you can kind of better contain it or just stay in it?
Well, life can seem chaotic and wild, and really it's just life. I think the main thing is that when we deepen in our ease and presence, then whatever the situations and circumstances are, life can seem chaotic or seem wild, and there can be all kinds of things going on, and it can go like, wow, this is really amazing, this is really, wow, this is a crazy show. And yet all the way in an individual's being or in my being, I'm in awe of the mystery as it unfolds. And I think the gift for me is to notice any time where I notice I'm not in my ease, that whatever it is that pulls me out of my ease, it's an opportunity to stop and feel what's going on so that I can listen to the wisdom of my heart, my belly, or my body and say, what do you need to come back into ease? Because that's really, living in ease is really what where the magic is. It's where the divine connection is. And if we're not in our ease, then we're not in our power. And then the only thing that matters is coming back into our ease, coming back into our presence, and that's where magic happens.
So what does ease mean to you, just to be clear on this term?
Oh.
That sound maybe.
Yeah. Ease is it's on the other spectrum of trying. That if I'm trying to do something, then it's impossible for me to be in my ease, which is also very different than if I'm in my passion. Because even when I'm talking to you now, it's flowing and the words are coming and I can feel the passion moving through me talking about whatever it is you're asking me about. Mm-hmm. And yet there's passion, and yet at the same time there's ease. Whereas if I was trying to figure out what I'm going to say and what does the question mean and what's the best way to answer this, and I was up in my head, then I'd be trying, and then that would not be an easy experience for me. Whereas just allowing the flow to move through me, that feels fun. That feels easy. We're having a conversation.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's a cup of tea.
Yeah. So if you would have like one main importance to say for us men and women, where should we start to go closer to the ease and to the fully integrated spirituality?
Start by feeling deeply into the core of your being. That's really where the divine connection is. It's not out here. It's really by feeling deeply into your own heart, your own belly, your own body, and bringing your own consciousness all the way deep into your own being. And to notice what's moving you, to notice what you need to be more in your ease, and to notice when you're not in your ease, and to bring yourself into deeper and deeper levels of presence and ease. That's really what meditation is. That's really what we're here to do, and to notice where we start spinning a story that creates us somewhere else other than right here and right now.
You know what? I feel like not speaking anymore, but I will try and get my mental straight and keep talking a little, because you have this movie.
Yes.
Sex Magic.
Yes.
Could you tell a little bit about this?
Well, it's a movie that I started to write film a documentary about 6 years ago, and it was a documentary about sexual healing and sexual empowerment and life force energy. And halfway through the project, the people that I hired to film it and shoot it, they got very excited about what they were shooting, and they said, hey, you know what, we want to take this project over, this half-hour documentary, we want to make it into a full-length motion picture about sexual healing, but also about your relationship in your life, because we think it's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And they said, look, the good things for you, Dez, is if we take the project over, this will reach way more people and impact a much bigger audience than what a little instructional documentary could do. So I thought they were right, and I said, okay, you guys take over the movie. So they took over the movie, and I didn't know what it was going to be, but it turned out to be a movie about my relationship and kind of my life, and it was kind of challenging. There's a part of me that wishes it would have been about somebody else, but I think it's an important story to be told, and it comments on relationships, it comments on spirituality, it comments on sexuality, it gets people thinking and feeling, and it doesn't necessarily always paint me in the best light. But it had to be about somebody, and it shows my humanness, and it shows where I was at 5-6 years ago. I'm in a very different place now, and I keep learning and growing all the time. But I think it's beautifully shot. The film, the cinematography is amazing. The cameraman is excellent cinematography and great soundtrack, and really it's a beautiful movie. And I think anybody would be touched, inspired, and at least it would inspire some conversation. And it usually does after the movie.
Mm-hmm. So what is your view upon relationship where you are now in your life?
Well, relationship is part of what it is to be human. And, I love relationships. I feel like my relationships with my family have grown and deepened. There's a lot more ease, and we have fun. My brothers and sisters, my mom and my dad, and uncles and aunts. I love my family. I love the deepening relationships and the quality men in my life, the brothers in my life, and the intimacy I have with my brothers. And that's really powerful. And, as far as my intimate love relationships with women, that just keeps expanding and growing too. And I feel more in love than ever. And I love how I'm met. How much more I'm met by the most amazing, beautiful beings that I get to share with intimately, physically, emotionally, sexually. And life is delicious, and it makes me feel like I have so much gratitude for being blessed to be in this body, to be a man, and to have so many beautiful lovers in my life. So that's a gift. And the depth of that relating, and the quality of those relationships, and how that just flavors my life, and how these relationships go on and on through life, and it's very sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.